Greetings shippers, welcome back, and it's time to take a look at a fandom that had its heyday during the rise of the digital renaissance, and also enjoys a healthy bit of popularity to this day. Indeed, some label it a classic fandom, a label that will make certain fans feel very old. This fan base has even branched out beyond fandom into the realms of academia and just pop culture in general. We're going to be taking a look at a pairing from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Today's outing is a special request from patron Robert Chapman, who really wanted the pairing of Xangel, that being the pairing of Xander Harris and Angel. It's a request I was glad to get because Buffy definitely deserves its time in the sun, but there are so many ships to choose from, it's hard to decide where to start. And well, Robert decided for us. Before we get started, if you haven't already, please do follow on social media to stay up to date, know when we're streaming, and just come on over and chit chat about fandom. It's a good time, I swear. When it comes to Buffy, there's a lot to chat about, so let's get started. Buffy the Vampire Slayer was a television series that aired from 1997 to 2003. The series' televised run consisted of 7 seasons and 144 episodes, and it would continue on in comic format. The show was based off of a 1992 movie of the same name, though ultimately significant changes were made. Buffy as a series has been credited as spearheading the dawn of the supernatural drama series, and has been further credited with paving the way for series such as Teen Wolf and Supernatural. It was also hailed as a feminist darling, and over time was analyzed by many from that standpoint. However, gradually, as opinions in certain sects of feminism shifted, so too have opinions on the show. Changes in opinions on series creator Joss Whedon, following later content and revelations of past behavior, have also soured some on the series. However, overall, Buffy has remained a cultural landmark, one of the hallmark teen shows of the 90s, and also made a huge imprint on fandom. In 1997, digital fandom was on the rise, as more and more people gained access to computers in their homes, and websites became easier to create and navigate for the average user. A shift was also occurring in how people viewed the computer as a result. From complicated tool to leisure device, hobby curator, and for some, a necessity. All of these shifts led to an increase of transformative fandom, transferring from the purely tangible realm into the digital, facilitated by the rise of certain juggernaut fandoms that amassed scores of fans from all walks of fandom who wanted to engage in any way possible. And the computer and the internet opened up a whole new realm of interaction. When it came to paving the way for online shipping, this came for some from an unlikely arena, the X-Files. A supernatural horror series that began in 1993, the X-Files cultivated a massive shipping fandom due to the chemistry between the two leads, Mulder and Scully, and even coined the term shipping. Shortly after, Xena Warrior Princess began in 1995 and heralded the femme/renaissance. This was of course peppered with other shows that began to come up and occupy fandom space. All of this created quite the space for shows watched predominantly by young fans, especially those who enjoyed genre shows. In short, people were primed to enter fandom in an all-new way. By 1997, Buffy was for many a perfect storm of elements they had come to enjoy from a variety of 90s programs: teen, drama, sci-fi, and more, all wrapped up into one. And from the start, people were extremely attached to the snarky teens, and the drama, as well as the world. When all those things come together, fanfiction and art are almost certain to follow. And follow they did. Buffy became one of the earliest fandoms to have documented flame and ship wars, both canon and fanon-based, and also because of its unique positioning, could take advantage of both the rise of independent fanfiction and fan archives, as well as targeted ones, as fanfiction.net launched in 1998, a mere year after the series began, though it would take a few years for it to reach peak popularity. LiveJournal, the popular blog site, which would later be dethroned by Tumblr and changes in how fans consume online content, launched in 1999, and also provided a huge fandom space for many years. Buffy proved to be unique in more than just popularity, however, but also in its variety in terms of ships and works. Buffy became one of those fandoms wherein pretty much every ship imaginable was presented. If one could think it, someone somewhere shipped it. This was most likely in part due to the show's ensemble format. While Buffy was the show's namesake and the protagonist, she very much shared the spotlight with her supporting cast. Buffy is a more documented fandom than most, and indeed even archives for some of its rarer pairs, such as this one, remain intact and maintained, a testament to the hold this fandom took on people. So now, let us narrow our focus to Xangel by meeting the players, starting with Xander. Xander Harris, played by Nicholas Brendan, was a prominent supporting cast cast member and part of the inner group of Buffy's friends, later to be dubbed the Scoobies. Xander is meant to be based off of Whedon, or what he felt he was like in high school. Xander is nerdy and awkward, but charming, a wannabe ladies' man who is far more successful when he lets situations unfold naturally than when he forces them. Not all of these traits have aged well, especially with revelations about both Brendan and Whedon, which has soured some to the character. It all depends on how much one can separate creator or actor from the source material. Xander is a loyal friend who has to fight against his instincts of jealousy and an oftentimes black and white outlook to ultimately mature into a competent member of the gang, though as the series progresses, he became known as the normal one, as essentially everyone else was either a supernatural creature or blessed with some kind of special ability or knowledge, while Xander lost an eye, though many came to appreciate the fact that there was someone with whom they could identify. In the comics, he becomes much more capable and a tactical leader for the team. However, as mentioned numerous times on this channel, not all fans make the leap from medium to medium when a series continues on in a different format. Next up, Angel, aka Angelus, played by David Boreanaz. Angel first appeared in season 1 and would prove so popular he would get his own spin-off series titled Angel, which itself ran for 5 seasons. Originally named Liam, Angel was sired in the 18th century and took on the name Angelus, embracing all the darkness being a vampire offered, as in the Buffyverse, vampires lose their soul, which is in fact a common feature of a lot of vampire lore, damned creatures and all that. However, he is later cursed with a soul, which transforms him into Angel, a vampire with a conscience and a massive guilt complex over the crimes he has committed. Angel seeks to atone for his past and help mankind, a quest that ultimately leads him to Buffy and her friends. He is Buffy's first great love and the first heartthrob to come out of the show, and part of the great Spuffy versus Bangel ship wars from back in the day. Both of these characters were involved in romances with Buffy, sort of. While Angel became Buffy's first love, Xander was in love with Buffy and ultimately found himself rebuffed, which later led to his relationship with Cordelia and all the shenanigans and relationships that followed. So initially, Xander and Angel were presented as rivals, human versus vampire, the right choice versus the wrong choice. So how exactly did people come to ship these two? Well, some find this to be the natural end to the love triangle. While it is not impossible to write a compelling love triangle, nor is it by any means a trope that should never be employed, it is one that has been used so often, it is difficult to pull off uniquely. Buffy's supernatural and teen drama elements work in its favor, as the trope was not as yet as utilized as it would become within this genre, but for many it simply wasn't interesting, particularly as so many fell hard for Angel, and hence for Buffy and Angel. However, some preferred the idea that they weren't fighting over Buffy at all. The concept of rivals realizing that the object of their affection is not who they truly desire. This can be a fun interpretation to play with, a twist on an overplayed concept, especially when the rivalry was as intense as it was between Xander and Angel, with some going so far as to label them enemies, which in of itself is already a popular trope, that of rivals to lovers or enemies to lovers. There was also Xander's disapproval over the fact that Angel was a vampire, something it took him years to overcome, so many enjoyed the concept of playing with what it would take to make Xander get over his bias and bring him and Angel together. This pairing carried on throughout the series. While never a huge ship, it managed to maintain a presence, dwindling off when Angel got his own series, partially due to lack of screen time, though some did write crossover fics. So while not tied specifically to one moment, though season 1 definitely got the ship off the ground, what was it about these two's personalities that drew people to them? For many, it came down to matching archetypes. While the characters of Buffy were well loved, some could argue that at times they were quite archetypal, which while not a bad thing, did sometimes mean they could act in ways that the plot required rather than in a more nuanced fashion. It varied, for certain characters became incredibly nuanced, and certain seasons had more depth than others. As a result, Xander often found himself in cycles of doing the wrong thing and having to find his way out of the mess he had created, and Angel was all about saving people to atone for his past. As a result, some felt that Xander could be saved by Angel, and a great many scenarios presented themselves, often as AUs, Angel helping Xander get over Cordelia. Further, more complex AUs wherein Angel helped Xander recover from drugs, or saves him from a life of prostitution. There were also those who were more drawn to male-male pairings, and as a result, wanted to see the story beats that played out with Buffy play out with Angel and another character. The obvious choice, particularly in season 1 and 2, was Xander, especially as in season 2, Buffy briefly tried to play them off of each other, yet another reason for the two to find solace together. It must be noted that shipping choices expanded rapidly for these two, with the arrival of Spike, Oz, and later Riley, just to name a few. Some felt that Angel's tortured soul could be soothed by Xander's humanity, which some felt he possessed more of than Buffy because of her Slayer abilities, which made her unrelatable to certain viewers. Others felt that Xander's quirks and humor could perhaps bring some laughter to Angel's Angel's life, and the two could find a happy balance together, rather than the more angsty relationships provided by canon. These feelings solidified for certain shippers after the two became cautious friends, as for certain fans this relationship felt hard-fought, and they appreciated the demonstrable growth of each character. The pairing also had a built-in dark element, for Xangel could also be Xangelus, the dark pairing of desouled Angel and Xander. Thanks to Angel's duality, the works involving him can be played with. One such way is by pairing the character with Angelus. This can lead to an appealing, for those who enjoy that sort of thing, world of dark fics, or hurt comfort, and the blending of tropes/genres, as Xander helps Angelus regain his soul, or is perhaps the reason he gains or loses it in the first place. Xangel fics in general were also flexible, in that they could take place within stories dedicated solely to that pairing, or be ensemble cast fics, or multi-pairing fics, be that OT3s, or fics that simply showcased multiple couples. A common couple to accompany these two was the for a time popular pairing of Willow and Spike, which enjoyed its heyday in Season 3, and still continues quietly and covertly in the shadows to this day. As this ship emerged in the late 90s, it was subjected to some of the fandom purges that took place on fanfiction.net and LiveJournal, particularly as those purges got rid of a lot of slash content. So it is hard to chart just how many fics there truly were for these two. However, enough fics and independent archives remain to note that this pairing made its mark, and people have re-archived what they can. Indeed, the ship maintained relevancy well into the era of YouTube. Founded in 2005, one of the early activities enjoyed on the now massive video hosting platform was the creation and sharing of fan vids, of which Xangel had a few. However, YouTube fan vids encountered their own purge once YouTube was bought by Google in 2006, and a few years later, they began to crack down on copyright, in the era before a comprehensive, if still flawed, copyright system was set up. During this era, many videos were simply deleted, or their creators frightened off by the strong language of early copyright claims. Some would argue that things have not changed over much. So what happened to Xangel? Why did it peter out? As well as why did some not take to it? Let us start with the decline. As mentioned, Buffy had many ships, and was a show wherein the canon ships enjoyed a high level of popularity, often eclipsing the fanon ships. So Xangel was already less popular than both canon and fanon ships, and hence less visible, especially in an era of dedicated ship archives, and also an era with very early tagging systems and techniques. It was also later to be overtaken by a rival pairing known as Spander, the pairing of Spike and Xander, as many found their dynamic to be a refreshing update to the Angel-Xander one, especially as the love triangle was not a factor, and Spike had a snarky personality that rivaled Xander's, so the two bantered in a to some more amusing fashion. Also, the tone of the series shifted, particularly in between seasons 1 and 2. Indeed, there are certain Buffy fans who feel that one can skip season 1 altogether and start from season 2, something that certain fans clearly do, as there are some who are unaware that Xander ever was a love interest for Buffy, or that for a time there was a bit of a ship rivalry between Angel and Buffy and Xander and Buffy, though it was nowhere near what would come with Buffy and Angel and Buffy and Spike. Indeed, the battle was over relatively quickly, though as with all pairings, there are dedicated Xander-Buffy shippers. Season 1, regardless of how one feels about it, is a good foundation for this pairing of Xangel, but some of the characters are a little different, particularly Buffy, who bears much more resemblance to her movie counterpart than she does later on. Without this season, while one can still ship this pairing, there are less cues, and so newer fans who may have skipped the first season may miss jumping on points that at the very least set up the groundwork to potentially jump on later, as the continuity in Buffy actually matters. It must also be noted that not all took to either or one as characters. Some found Xander's everyman character unrelatable and slightly abrasive. Indeed, there have long been discussions, even while the show was airing, as to whether or not Xander Harris was the worst character. Others aren't fans of the brooding vampire trope, preferring a more fun-loving immortal. Others simply didn't see the spark others claimed to. Some never got over their initial antagonism and found the whole love triangle arc toxic and off-putting, or were firmly entrenched in their camps of OTPs, as the discussion surrounding OTPs was oftentimes quite stringent, and the knowledge of multi-shipping and multi-shippers was still evolving, and many fans took this very seriously. Aside from all this, some are not fans of vampire-human relationships, or vampires hanging out outside of high schools, or sometimes in them. For others, these two did not match. Xander's affableness and go-with-the-flow nature seemed ill-juxtaposed with Angel's dark, melancholic mission. It is as always possible for fans to get different reads on different characters, and depending upon which reads they get, characters may match more or less for certain fans than for others. For some, the connection was too difficult to make, especially when there were so many other pairings to choose from. Less a question of no TP, and more a question of not being considered, though for some it is of course a no TP. Every ship is someone's no TP. There may also have been some backlash to shipping this pairing over Bangel at the time. However, if there was, that evidence has largely been lost to time, though given how many felt about Xander's treatment of Angel, it is likely. Suffice it to say, for fans discovering Buffy now, who may find themselves drawn to this ship, there is material out there for them, and a fandom willing to welcome them. It is also possible to take a look back at classic fics written as the series was airing, which can be a fun pastime as these fics tend to have a unique flavor, so it can be intriguing to go back and take a look at those as well. In a way, it can be like a fandom time capsule. Xangel is a classic lesser-known ship, but for some, near and dear to their hearts. For others, a curiosity, and for still more, something they missed completely, but may want to dive into. Thanks to when it occurred and the fandom it came from, evidence of it will linger on, and it will not be forgotten. And for certain shippers, this couple lives on. Were you a member of the Buffy fandom? Yes or no? Were you a fan of Xander Harris as a character, or of this ship? Also, have your opinions on the series, if you have seen it, changed over the years? Let me know all your thoughts down below, and you know the drill. Numbered if possible. I love a good essay comment. Thanks again to Robert Chapman for requesting this pairing and taking us into the Buffyverse. It will definitely not be our only foray into it. As always, I want to thank you for taking some time out of your day to spend it discussing fandom and shipping with me. I always appreciate it. There are, as always, more videos coming soon, so if you haven't already, please do subscribe and hit that bell notification so that you never miss a vid. I will, of course, see you all again when I can, and until then, let's get to that outro. Bye-bye. This has been Shipper's Guide to the Galaxy. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Special thanks to all of my patrons, names on the side, for helping to make these videos possible. There are, as always, more videos coming soon, so until then, stay tuned, for there are as many ships out there as there are stars in the sky.